All right, connections. How are we today? Day 2. Still got the energy going? A little bit, halfway there. Okay. Well, hopefully the next 20 minutes are fun and engaging and get that energy up. We're over the final hump of day 2, so only a little bit to go. Thank you for joining this session on Prompt Builder 101, crafting effective prompts in Salesforce Prompt Builder. My name is Brandon Walton. I'm a Salesforce consultant, marketing cloud consultant, agent blazer, as we all are going to be agent blazers, right? Yeah. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well at Brandon K. Walton. Forward-looking statement, make your purchasing decisions off of your own research. We'll be sharing concepts and ideas in the next 20 minutes that will be helpful, hopefully in guiding some of those purchasing decisions, but do your own research, do your own due diligence. Forward-looking statement, we've seen these before. Please leave your review and feedback. If you particularly like this session, let them know because I love doing these. I'd love to come back and do more of them. And also, you can see this fancy new jacket I got here today. This is all because of the Salesforce community. Join the community, become a moment marketer. All of the technology you're seeing here is brand new. So the more that us as a community are helping each other out, learning new things, like I'm going to be sharing things that I've learned with you here today, we all get better together. So join the community, participate, we learn from each other. That's how we become successful, by supporting each other. All right, your agenda for today. We're going to be talking about Prompt Builder. We're going to be talking about working with Prompt Builder. Now, fun thing, of course, I've been working on this presentation and there's an update to everything Prompt Builder. So what you're going to be seeing on my slides today are going to be an older version. All the same stuff is still there. The layout is going to be slightly different. And then most importantly, what I want everyone to take away from is some things that I have learned about how to structure prompts within Prompt Builder so that they can really work well for you. So let's get started. The first thing that you're going to do, if you haven't already, whether you have your own org that you can do this in or you're working with the Salesforce admin at your company, is you are going to turn on Salesforce Foundations. Salesforce Foundations is what you are going to need to turn on all of the fun Agent Force stuff that you've been learning about here. So to activate Agent Force, what you or your admin is going to do is pop in Foundations. Foundations is going to give you a nice walkthrough of how to enable Data Cloud and all those things that are going to be required for your Agent Force to get up and running. This presentation isn't about setting up Agent Force, so we're just going to jump ahead. So let's talk about prompting in Salesforce and what that looks like for us. So in Agent Force, there are a couple of ways that we can work with prompts. But before we get into that, one of the things that's important to understand that's been helpful for me in making this transition is if you rewind about 12 or so years ago, to do most of this stuff, you had to be a programmer, right? You had to be able to write code. And then a shift happened about a decade ago where we moved from clicks to code, right? From code to clicks, right? So rather than being a programmer, you had these great interfaces, whether it was Exact Target, Pardot, Salesforce, flows, workflows. So the idea is, a while ago, a decade ago, we went from code to clicks. Now what we're seeing, the big shift that we're seeing, is we're going from clicks to prompts. So this is really exciting because rather than having to create a bunch of logic, right, we're just talking or typing to our computer and getting results from the computer. So it's a brand new skill that we're all learning and we're getting better at over time. And you all are agent blazers, trailblazers, you're here learning. So give yourself a round of applause because you're ahead of the curve, because you're jumping into this stuff. So 3 ways that prompts work in Salesforce. One, which we'll be covering today, is Prompt Builder. Prompt Builder is the engine, if you will, where you can select an LLM, you can select what model you're going to use, you're going to feed prompts in it, and then you're going to define what those prompts can be used for inside of your Salesforce account. Once you have your prompts put together, you have this idea of what's called an Agent Builder. So Agent Builder, we're still in the admin world. An agent is where we go to, Agent Builder is where we go to set up the pieces of what an agent is going to be so that it can eventually become an Agent Force agent. Agent Builder is going to consist of things like agent actions, agent topics, instructions, where you will still feed it prompts and tell it what to do. And then that's going to be what's used in the final end product that either your internal users or your customers are going to see, and that's Agentforce. So if you've had it turned on in an org, or if you've seen it before, it's either going to be the chat bubble at the bottom of the screen, or it's going to be that little icon at the top that your users can click and they can engage in Agentforce. So Prompt Builder is where we can build those prompts. Agent Builder is where we bring everything together so we can actually build agents that can then be turned loose for our users, whether they're internal users or our customers. Okay, so now that we understand what prompts are inside of Agentforce, we'll talk a little bit about working with Prompt Builder. So Prompt Builder is that first step, right? And I think for folks who are learning this for the first time, Prompt Builder is a great place to start. It's a place, it's an interface where you can go and you can create templates, define what those templates are used for, and really start using that to leverage AI inside of Salesforce without really risking setting it loose for your customers or for your users. So that's why I really recommend, if you are new to this stuff, get good with Prompt Builder first. It's really going to make everything downstream from that work better for you. Here's some key terms. We'll just jump right into it. All right, so this is Prompt Builder. We'll call it previous to this week. But if you log into Prompt Builder now in your org, you'll see that it's been updated a little bit, but the principles and what's inside of there are still going to be the same, and that's what we'll cover here next. So the anatomy of your prompt building workspace is going to be pretty simpler. Your workspace here is where you actually write your prompt. So in the same way that if you're talking to Claude or ChatGPT, this is where you write your prompts in. Your resource, this is some of the magic that you get by doing all of this inside of Salesforce versus going over to ChatGPT and doing this. Resource is going to allow you to pull in related information. If it's a contact, related information to a contact, it allows you to pull in that dynamic data into your prompt. So when this thing is let loose, let's say we're doing a prompt record for a specific contact record, it's going to give you data specific to that contact record or that account or that case. One of the things that's really powerful about using prompts inside of Salesforce is they are adding all of the different LLMs that are in the market for you. So you don't need to set up a ChatGPT account, then an Anthropic account, then a Gemini account. They're bringing all of those into one workspace for you. You can pick and choose which prompt you want to use. A strategy, a hot tip is different purposes of different prompts may be better with different learning models. So what's cool about this is you can have one prompt using ChatGPT and another prompt using Gemini based off of what the needs of that prompt are. You can also customize the prompts, change temperatures, and do additional configuration inside of Prompt Builder as well. And then down below is where you can preview things. So as we're building prompts and testing out different learning models, down below is going to show us how the prompt is thinking, and then the response is going to show us what the prompt is presenting to us. All right, structuring prompts for success. So in this example, we're going to be creating a prompt to help us as marketers provide some marketing analysis on specific contact records. There are some key things that we want to incorporate when we are creating our prompts so that we can get successful, reliable results. So the 5 attributes of an agent, according to Salesforce, and you see trust is at the bottom of it. 1, making sure that we're defining a role of the agent. That agent needs to know what its job is. Second, we need the data. That's the resources, right? If we don't have the data and the resources, the responses that we're going to get are always going to be either really, really vague and really risky for providing us reliable results. So data that we feed it is going to be very important. Then actions, what we want our agent to do or what we want our prompt to do. Guardrails, this is really important, what we don't want our agent to do. And then channel, we want to define our agent what channel it's going to be communicating on. I've been doing some really cool things with voice, so you can call and actually talk to an agent. When you're building an agent for voice, you need to create very specific rules that might be different than if it's an agent that's going to be on your website as a chat, or if it's an agent that's just providing summary fields. So understanding what channel your agent is operating on is going to be very, very important to making sure that we're putting the correct guardrails and parameters and actions into place. So let's start with step one, role. Give your agent a clear purpose. So in our marketing analyst agent, we're giving it a clear definition, letting it know you are a marketing analyst for our organization. Your job is to analyze engagement history and draft an executive summary. We're letting it know what the output is being used for, but notice we are very specific in the role. So number one is it needs to know what its job is and what your expectations of the agent is. Just like if you're going to be making a new hire, right? Your new hire needs to have a very clear defined roles, or you can't have realistic expectations of what that new hire is going to be doing. Data. So this looks pretty fancy, but in that resource builder, what's nice about it, this is all dragging in fields. You don't need to memorize what a record snapshot is or input.contact engagement score ID. Using that resources tab inside of your prompt builder, you have access to all of this data on whatever object that you're deploying it on. This data is going to be important that when you're using this agent, whether it's to create some dynamic content for an email, or an SMS message, or even a summary like what we're doing today, it needs to have that data so that it is grounded in what response it's going to provide for you. One of the things that's really cool about Prompt Builder is our ability to pull in not only information directly on the record, but also related information as well. That's one of the things that we've had really great results with. Okay, so you can see here inside of Prompt Builder, and this is the older Prompt Builder. The new Prompt Builder will still have the same concept of resources. It'll look a little bit different. But you can see here on this contact record, we can see all the fields on the contact record. We can pull in related information, related objects, and we can use this data directly in our prompts inside of Prompt Builder. So we really have control over what it's going to return to us. It's going to know information about that contact that's going to be important for us to present something contextual, something that's relevant to that specific content, a contact. And again, like we all know as marketers, and something that most of us struggle with is we do have to make sure the data is good. So when you hear through all the keynotes and everywhere else, data is really important, this is what they're talking about. Because with good data, this becomes very, very powerful. Next is defining actions. So specific instructions with detailed requirements. And I'll say that again, because some of us might be doing prompts already with mediocre responses. The more specific you are with your agent, the better responses you'll get. So we're going to say must, very clear must, not you should, right? You must include detailed data about key campaigns. So we're telling it specifically what we want it to return in the prompt. And you can see here we have some of that dynamic data being pulled in, but we're making a very clear defined list of what we want it to do. Records must be hyperlinked. Based off of a contact role and opportunity information, we need to make a suggestion of the next step for a salesperson to follow up with. So we're being very specific and detailed on the actions that we're having our agent produce for us. And then equally as important is we need guardrails. Test your agents before you deploy them. Don't go in and turn something on live without doing thorough testing. What you will find is that there's going to be little things that are in the response that you don't want it to do. There's going to be some in here that I've learned the hard way from. Make the summary concise. Each section should only contain 2 to 3 sentences max. So control how many characters it's returning. Be very clear. Be explicit in your instructions on what you do not want it to do. More guardrails as well, clear instructions for language and content. So in this example here, we're going to give it some specific content guidelines. Your goal is to summarize a record, avoid complex language, industry jargon, technical terms. I won't read through every one of these, but the idea is we're giving it very clear guardrails on what content to produce and what not to produce. And then in this particular example for our marketing analysis, we're going to be doing a field generation to a summary field. It's a rich text field. So there's going to be some HTML in there. We're going to give it very clear, defined rules on how we want it to handle HTML. So for the marketers in the room that are interested about what it might look like to create email templates with AI, with prompts, you'll need to be very specific about the HTML you want it to use and the HTML you do not want it to use. The more specific and explicit we are in our instructions, the more reliable the results will be. And you can see here some examples of HTML guardrails that I've put on my agent. Line breaks, anchor tag for links, use the strong tag for bold content. Again, being very specific on how I want it to handle the HTML. And then we'll take a look at the results. So our results here, again, what we did is we're creating a marketing analysis co-pilot so we can take a look at a contact record and provide a marketing analysis so we could come up with a strategy for marketing to this wonderful person, Brandon Walton here. So what it's done is you can see on the Einstein summary, it's very clearly defined our HTML. So now inside of our field generation, it's got a very nice drawn out, broken up by line, broken up by paragraph summary, along with suggestions and next steps for the campaign. All right, prompt builder tips and resources. So 1, be specific. If you are not specific, you are opening up risk to having it give you responses that are not ideal. This becomes very, very important if you are going to be having a bot engage on a website, right? What we built here today is an internal tool. You can be a little bit more forgiving. In fact, if you're just getting started with this, if you're just turning on Agentforce for the first time, that's where I would suggest getting started, because internal users can be a little bit more forgiving. But you'll learn very quickly that you need to be specific in what you want from that agent. Second, use data. I think that is one of the biggest superpowers that we have with Agentforce, is that it's tied into our CRM. So if there's any questions on what that means, hopefully this session helped define that and clarify that. You have access to all of your CRM data. Now notice, in that resource, it was pulling in direct CRM data. It did not require Data Cloud. I think that's a misconception. You can build agents without Data Cloud. We did that here today. But Data Cloud is going to allow you to dig a lot deeper and pull in data from a lot more sources. But leverage data, you can use that inside of Agentforce. It's powerful and it's useful and it's helpful. Iteration is key. So with all of the Agentforce projects that I've done so far, it's lots and lots and lots of testing. I think that's one of the things. There's this misconception that AI is going to take our jobs. We are still working on the AI. And while the testing is a little bit different, we're not code debugging the same way that we were doing a decade ago. There's still a lot of testing involved, and that's where we're going to add value. That's where our input is going to be very important. So iterate, iterate, iterate. Start simple, and then as you get those guaranteed results that you really, really like, then you can start moving to more complex use cases. And then always be learning. Again, community is important. Learn from your colleagues. Events like Connections are awesome because you can talk with different individuals about what they're doing, and I always get great insights and learn from other folks of how they're using these tools, and that always gives me great ideas to go back with as well. And then you can connect with me. I'm happy to be part of your community. So take a picture, connect with me on LinkedIn, let me know the cool stuff that you're working on. I love to hear about it. It helps me, selfishly, it helps me get ideas on things that I can do for my clients and my own work. And then hopefully we can help you, overcome any hurdles that you're having with launching Agentforce for yourself. Agentforce Decoded is another great resource for you. This is a resource by Salesforce. There's lots of great articles and content there for you to learn about Agentforce. And then thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I think I was competing with Tony Hawk, so thanks for seeing me over Tony Hawk. That means a lot. I played his video games a lot. I was never a great skateboarder, but great with my thumbs. Thank you. I hope you're learning a lot here, and I hope that you continue to learn. And I look forward to seeing all of the awesome agent stuff that you build. Thank you. And give yourselves a hand. Yeah. Have a good Connections, everyone.